So tell us about your practice currently. I mean, Warren, let's start at the start. Tell us how you got into this in the first place.
Absolutely. I mean, I studied ethnomusicology at SOAS. I don't know if you know SOAS,
I
but
know, sir. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very special place where it's completely non-Western way of learning music and studying different musical cultures. And I think from that, it was all about learning from the ear, which for me, being neurodivergent, I've never been able to like learn music through a score. And like that was such like a setback in my musical development from that perspective. But going there and learning like Cuban jazz and like the West African harp, it was such a incredible way of perceiving the world and sound around us in like yeah a different way, which is really nice. And then from there I think it was just kind of looking at the practice of the way that we listen to the world through music is often through like two speakers that are like this, for example, which is a very non-sonic way of experiencing the world around us usually.
That's sonic.
Well, it's like and it's just through your ears, right? But it's not vibrations, which is like the way like everything is usually in 360. That's how we go about our days. But so to have two channels sounds it feels quite taken away from the interconnection of everything. So that's why I'm fascinated now with immersive sounds because I'm thinking as a way to show interconnection, it's such a animalistic sense essentially
Of
of
course.
like, you know, yeah, taking us back to our roots there.
Well, I think ambisonic sound in particular is based on the theory that it replicates how sound behaves in the real world. Whereas the problem with it's not a problem, it's just a different way of looking at it. But things like Dolby Atmos is good for kind of cinematic effects. You know, you've got the height and you've got the, but it's really more like a dome of sound. Likewise with the L-acoustic system and most other systems. Ambisonic, which was the theory of it was invented in in the 70s, I think, or maybe in the 60s. Somebody showed me the textbook of it at one point, and it was like that thick. I'm going, it's all like mathematical, kind of like it's like learning code. You know, I'm going, nope, that's all right for me. I'll just do the the experiential thing. But the point is, and what I've learned over the last 20 odd years is that you can recreate real sound. I mean, hyper realistic sounding environments. And of course, the content is variable. But the key thing is the most detected things are the most naturalistic ones. And oh, my guest has arrived. Jacob,
Totally. So you spoke just then about how your neurodivergence has shaped your practice. I've looked into a little bit of that this morning. I'd love to know more about that. Can you explain more about how you feel your neurodivergence how it shows up when you work with your immersive projects? I feel that people at home listening to this who have a similar thing would really benefit to hear how they can work with it creatively, I guess.
Yeah, I think in two ways specifically, or maybe even three. One is flow state, which is something that I've been exploring for ages. And I think as a neurodivergent person, when I'm stressed or something, being able to go to the piano or go to a creative outlet and experience the loss of sense of time and space through music has been such like a transformative way of reconnecting with nature, but also like getting rid of that stress essentially. And I think that that's such a powerful thing. It's in early days of research, but there's new stuff coming out every day about the connection between that and nature, and materialistic lifestyle. So that's going to be really interesting. But also, I think being hypersensitive to noise is something that, for me, has always been like a maybe negative characteristic of the ADHD and things that I have. And it's I think, being in shopping centres or spaces where there's noise all around you and you're feeling really quite overwhelmed, but you can't put your finger on why. You might not have realised that it was noise or sounds in the first place. So I think just like taken that and actually looking at it as a power and an advantage to like understand the ways that you're really connected and tuned into the world around you is like such an interesting way of navigating, which, you know, in city spaces is not been catered towards neurodivergent brains. Like the world doesn't work in that way. So I think challenging that and like saying we need different spaces for different types of brains is going to be really important.
Wow. And so how would you go about designing a space for a neurodivergent brain sonically?
Yeah, so that's what I've been really working with this rig. First of all, I realized that a lot of the spatial audio experiences aren't accessible. Like in terms of creators, there's not accessible. Like a lot of the times it's so expensive to produce with. So I've really noticed that. And also to create a portable but also transformative rig that could like involve communities in the center in different ways. So like tailoring experiences, I think it's going to be really important with live music in the future and produced music. So yeah, I think in terms of sensory spaces, it's all about looking at individual needs and kind of like making it completely customizable to that, whilst also, yeah, it's about co-creating with communities essentially.
Co-creating with communities.
Well,
It's exactly the essence of SoundPower. We were talking about being neurodivergent and how that impacts sensitive people, highly attuned people to noise and sound in environments.
and all that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting to know that you're out there actually combating this, because there's so many people that won't even know that's what the issue is. They're just being overwhelmed and overstimulated at every angle,
Yeah.
not having a reason for it, and it impacting and it manifesting itself in other areas of their lives in frustration and irritation, but not knowing that it's actually probably the sound input that's creating it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's amazing. I was at a thing with the Royal Albert Hall and looking at kind of inclusion with how concerts are attended and things, and they found that turning the hand dryers off in the toilets, it was such a barrier for people to like be able to go to the Albert Hall. So like, it's just tiny things and considerations that people could take into account, which could really like impact people's lives.
So what is the form of your neurodivergence?
Form of it, ADHD. I'm diagnosed as I'm dyspraxic, but
Right.
you know, I think it's so. I still feel like the research. I feel like they're still considered disabilities, and obviously considering them as like superpowers has its negative connotations as well. But I think seeing society as having different brains is just so important, and not having this like neurotypical and then everyone else. I bet it's much more, you know.
Do you feel it's sorry, Martin. Do you,
No, no, you can.
sorry, do you feel it shapes the way that you listen then? So having a brain like that actually means that you listen to music differently, so therefore you can curate and produce and compose music in a different way that's going to be received better by people who feel and think in the same way.
God, that's such a an interesting question. I think definitely talking about navigating the world, like say in cityscapes, I can hear it as a symphony everywhere, like the undertone of the car traffic, and then like, you know, the bleep of the traffic lights. And definitely people that in my circles that are also neurodivergent, we often end up dancing to those kind of things on the street or whatever, which is quite special. But in terms of composing as well with nature, this is where I think the nature-human connection comes in, especially because hearing birds' rhythms or like the pigeons cooing outside the window, there's music everywhere, right?
Yeah, interestingly, when I started working with immersive soundscaping, it basically unlocked a certain amount of my neuroplasticity. So that when the more I realized it became like it's a cliche, but it's like a muscle that if you consciously listen to the world around you, then you notice more. It's very simple. It's just that for some reason, sound is regarded as a kind of automatic sense that we take for granted, whereas vision isn't. You know, I mean, you know, for instance, I can look around this room now and go, I make a conscious decision to look at the bookcase and look at the books on it. But how many people in a similar situation would be in a room like this and listen to the direction of where sound is coming from,
Mm.
or the volume levels, or the reverb, or so that kind of sensitivity to the beauty of the world around you and sound has now informed my composition. Not just in 3D, but even when I'm mixing normal stuff,
It's amazing.
And it, say for instance, I'm working in the studio on something in 3D for 3 or 4 hours, and I go outside. Suddenly, the entire world just sounds ultra 3D in sound.
Yeah.
Ultra 3D. I mean, so this is why I think this diagnosis of ADHD or neurodivergence I have a little bit of a problem with it, because I think we're all a bit at various degrees of it. And I think as our understanding of the way that the brain reorganizes itself according to different sensory input, as our understanding of that improves, I think the kind of nomenclature of how we describe differently able people will change. I think at the moment it's very crude. It's like a blanket term, isn't it? I mean, the number of people that now are diagnosed with ADHD, and that diagnosis simply did not exist like
Yeah.
2 years ago. So it makes you wonder, okay, so growing up, which of my friends, for instance, would have been diagnosed as ADHD? I'm always a little bit suspicious of, big pharmaceutical companies trying to monetize different things as well.
Yeah.
I'm here to be controversial. So
Ha! I change habit of a lifetime, eh, Marty?
I know, but I mean, no, not controversial. To be iconoclastic, yeah, and to provoke thought. So, what's your view on that, Kat? What do you think?
I think that it's really hard to say, but I definitely think that the creative brain is different, has a different specialism to the other, like a different brain. Do you know what I mean? And I think that we do all have different kinds of brains, and just acknowledging that as a society would. This is where I'm interested with nature as well. Like when you look at ant colonies and ant communities, they have their specialisms, and they're allowed to like go off and like specialize in whatever that is. Whereas with the way that we act as a society, it's very rigid, and if you don't fit that mold, then you're, considered less in a way. But I think that there's some characteristics, like for example focus with ADHD, or I think like being constantly distracted by sound, or like is a symptom that could be perceived negatively in the constraints of our society here. But actually having, as I was saying, Cherub, that awareness of sound and how it really impacts the way you navigate the world. And if you could just map out the way you navigate based on that sound, it would be really interesting for a city planner, let's say, to create spaces that cater way to more like towards different brains.
It completely makes sense to me what you just said. I've told this story before. I'm going to tell it again because it's relevant. I worked with a blind artist on a 3D sound composition, and I was talking to her at length because it fascinates me. I didn't really know that much about that disability, and of course, once again, it's like a spectrum of disability. It's not just like it's black and that's it. You can't see anything. Oftentimes, it's like there are patterns that change according to what you're hearing, for instance.
Oh, I've always wondered that. I'm so glad you're explaining it.
Yeah, well, and normally it takes the form of plaid kind of color grids and stuff like that. Of course, then there's the thing about you just can't focus on anything, so it's just like clouds of light. But all that stuff. And anyway, I was saying to her, because I've got a special relationship with Venice, And she said she'd done some work out there. I mean, I lived out there for 30 years, so not full time, but and I said to her, when being in Venice must be a nightmare for a blind person. And she said it's the exact opposite. She said, because every single alleyway, square has its own sonic signature in terms of an impulse response.
Sonic signature. Wow.
I love that.
So,
Write it down. Nice.
and I'm going, no, she's going to walk in the canal, and it's like, but no, because obviously the reflective nature of water, that changes how you perceive what's around you. Obviously you got walls and alleyways and narrow alleyways, broad alleyways, squares. And it just made me think about hearing in a totally different way. That firstly, it's not considered by city planners at all.
Yeah.
It really isn't. It's just not really. They do the minimum to conform to whatever the regulations are. But I'm involved and have been for a long time with the Noise Abatement Society, strangely, who are now very positive, and we did some various projects with them about positive soundscaping for cities. So ameliorating the negative aspects of city life and creating a more acceptable and less stressful environment for people. So it sounds to me like the sort of stuff that you do, Kat, is kind of relevant to what we're talking about here. We're all on the same page, just coming at it from different directions. By the way, I don't have any conventional musical skill in terms of writing music. I don't, everything's just by listening and recreating what I hear in my head.
Which is amazing. And it's such
A gift.
Yeah, a gift, exactly.
Yeah, well, I know it is now, but I assumed everybody could do it when I first started.
But isn't that interesting how different brains even approach the concept of making music? And I think that's something, especially with flow state, which I'm just obsessed with that at the moment because
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm about to ask you about that because I know that it's a huge part of your work.
Yeah.
And obviously you're tying it in with sound becoming one of the best ways to access flow state.
Yeah.
And I feel the same because it's probably some of the most peaceful points in my life when I'm playing my instruments. And it's like I'm in between that hazy place between Sleep and Awake, Never Never Land. And when I finish playing, it's like I've woken up from a dream and I realize I'm in a room with all these people and it's not really cognitive, and the way that I pick my instruments up really intuitively. And I have a sound partner who I've been playing with for 15 years. We often play with our backs to each other just because of the way the room is structured, and we pick up the same instrument at the same time, or he'll pick up an F flute at the same time I pick up an F bowl, crystal bowl, and we ended up, it's like full brain synchronization, and it happens in music when we're just lost in sound. So tell us more about how flow state impacts your creative process in the studio when you're performing live.
Yeah, I think so. I've been artist in residence for hydrogen research with Brunel for like the past year, which was like working with scientists, philosophers, lots of different people working in and around the green transition. And they wanted me to create some work around hydrogen, like public engagement. Sorry, this is a big tangent, but it'll come back.
It's good.
That's what we're here for. Take us there.
Basically, I was having a big trouble connecting with the concept of hydrogen because I was like, from their perspective, it was super scientific language and things that were just going straight over my head. So instead, what I did was I went to this lake and just watched, because I realised hydrogen's literally everywhere. That was like the main thing that I picked up. And if it was in water and water's flowing as well, that same hydrogen's in me as well. It's in the stars. It's in literally the foundation of everything. And like in the past, with like rituals and ancient traditions, with like stone circles and things, people have always been looking at this kind of interconnection. And I think flow states played a huge part throughout history in this like interconnection with nature, by essentially becoming non-human. And I don't want to say that in a hippie way, but you essentially get rid of all of the constraints of being a human, your self-awareness, your the stress, the anxiety, like we said before, but and entering into a place that is quite synesthetic and like beyond. It just feels so powerful. Yeah.
Wow. A couple of things I wanted to mention. One is I worked with an artist called Kat Pegler ages ago, 20 years ago. She's quite famous. She was part of the Young British, whatever, the Damien Hirst thing, in that big exhibition. Sensation was it called? Yeah, which was like kind of. Anyway, and she's got stuff in the Tate Modern and all that stuff. And we became very good friends. And she's got her own gallery in her home and private collectors who collect her work and stuff. And she wanted, we came up with this idea. She got a new collection of her work, which is sound the wall and stuff, semi-sculptural. And I said, why don't we do a 3D soundscape based on your practice, right? So based on what the theme of this particular exhibition is about. And she said, what, and I asked her what it was about, and she said, rituals, kind of shamanic rituals or ancient calls to prayer. So I did 3 months of research looking at different calls to prayer from around the world, chucked them all into a bit of logic performance randomly on different stems. Thought, well, we've got to start somewhere. It's like knitting a jumper, isn't it? You just got to start somewhere. So just put on a few tracks of all these different calls to prayer from around the world, different cultures, completely different parts of the world. It was impossible to make it not work. Everything sounded like in harmony with each other. There was no dissonances. It blew my mind completely. I literally kept switching things, recordings around, going, surely something's going to be like, a quarter tone out, or it sounds wrong, or no. Everything sounded like it was like fucking Coca-Cola. I'd like to teach the world to sing it, but, it was it was a real, yeah, I've got it on my system. I'll send it to you. It was a real moment of realization that as humans, we don't need tuning forks. We don't need, we don't need analysis. We don't need. It's just amazing, and that really opened my eyes to the natural harmony that's all around us, and in nature as well, not just human ritual.
That's powerful stuff. And actually, when you think about uniting all the different religions and cultures via their own unique call to prayer, you start to realize the harmony between them all. And if you looked at, for example, the words that strengthen the electromagnetic field of resonance, the measurable field around the body, not the aura, it's a scientific thing that can be measured. The word that strengthens the field the most is Allah. And the second word is Amen. And the third is hallelujah. So it's in the ha, that is the ha, is the strength. And it's different religions, all same words for prayer, and they all strengthen the field the most. So it's almost like saying God, different beard kind of situation, that all religions, all cultures, all tribes, all have that similar message. And there's also a theory that everyone around the world chants Om in the same frequency, 136.10. I've seen studies on that. So again, if you aligned everyone chanting Om all around the world, you'd have a similar effect. So it just shows the unification of sound being the religion.
God, it's amazing. And I wonder, is the drone note for me is like entering flow state. If I have a drone, it goes way quicker. And I wonder, is that the same with? I guess the Om kind of is a drone, isn't it?
Yeah. I've just done a piece, which is about to be released actually, and it's also an installation about to be released on CD as well, called which was a kind of ironic take on sound as pharmacological medicine, called mesmerine 111, which is 111 hertz, which has been proven to switch off half of the prefrontal cortex when you absorb it, when you listen to it, and put you in a trance. And this has been cross-referenced with various Neolithic burial sites around the world, scientifically proven through magnetic resonance imaging on brains fed that particular frequency. So yeah, there's a lot that we've forgotten, number one, through human history. There's a lot also that we have turned our backs on in terms of sound from nature. There's a lot that's being masked by human activity. And so this is very facile to call it a kind of hippie realization of that this needs to be readdressed and rebalanced. But it's just true. It's for the well-being of everyone. It's not just those who were, who are in the know. It should be for everyone.
Yeah.
And we're looking on it between us all, aren't we? And that's what I love about your approach to this specifically, Kat, because your practice seems to sit at the crossroads of ritual, which we just discussed, and research with your work with the universities, which is a powerful place to be because it's like you're collapsing boundaries between art, science, spirit, and then sound is the golden thread that weaves it all together. And we were just, Martin and I, discussing before you came on the call, that is really the best way to get a message across. It's more relatable. People can absorb and embody the message deeper and truer. And it's a more of a long-lasting impact when it comes via the medium of sound.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I think that the problem with music and this embodied experience, though, is trying to then put it into human words and to explain these kind of experiences to others that aren't like able to access it for whatever reason is so difficult. And so it really requires that interpersonal connection, like in the same space, or, you know, getting people out to deep listen. I think that should be like, yeah, it's so important to reconnect through listening like that. But yeah, I think the language has always been a struggle for me. So
tell us about your I'm just looking at your description here from your website, and tell us about your time in Mexico.
oh, that was amazing. I was lucky enough to get a Arts Council grant to go and spend some time looking. It was Dia de los Muertos, you know, the Day of the Dead,
Yeah.
in San Miguel, and there it's like really, it was so beautiful to see like the connection with grief and loss, but in a way that's so beautiful and not kind of like put off to one side and not looked at in the way that we maybe have in the UK. But yeah, it's all around, and it's like very much you go to the graves as a family, and people bring music, and it's a big celebration. And I was looking basically at the impacts of there's two very important things: the marigold flower, the orange marigold, and the what they're called, sorry, mariposas, the big butterflies.
Butterflies,
Yeah. And basically, and the hummingbirds. And basically, I was looking at with climate change, those three things, they're the portal, but they can cross between the living and the dead. So that's why they're so important within society.
Oh.
But yeah, basically with climate change, the hummingbirds and the butterflies are becoming less and less, which is just in terms of migration. Yeah. So I was kind of looking at like what impact does that have culturally on communities where that is such a huge part of connection with the dead, the loved ones like beyond. And also looking at river guardians and the role of like guardians spiritually in protecting nature. Looking at that and how can we bring that back into the UK. We have it here too, or had it, these guardians, and look at different ways of like protecting nature at a time when the water, as you know, I'm pretty sure, is like being degraded so much. And I think sound played such a huge part in that too.
Well, we've done with Illustrious, we created a piece called for installation called "It's Always Ourselves We Find in the Sea," and which again I can send to you, which was based around the idea of water gods, water rituals, the journey of water, the cycle of water, as a piece of time-based art over like, I don't know, 40 minutes or something, I can't remember. And the cyclical nature of it, and how, you know, unfortunately, within 10 or 15 years, our relationship to water is going to change dramatically. It's going to increase necessary migration due to desertification of various areas. And it's going to increase, obviously, the global warming is going to increase sea levels as well. And so we thought that was really important. So we created this thing. We've done 3 instances of it now. And it's something that I think supersedes all other things for mankind. Well, and the earth in general, animal kind, nature kind.
So what do you have to do to be a river guardian then? Because I've got the River Thames in my front garden, literally, with no fence. It's right there. Tell me what I've got to do, I'll do it. I'll sing to the river.
That's
What
amazing.
do I do?
Well, it does definitely come down to ritual. I think I was just a couple of weeks ago on this beautiful pilgrimage with their Friends of the River Medway, and they basically got everyone all along the river, different people, like councillors, politicians, activists, all across borders of counties to like come on this pilgrimage. And then they held a symposium with their lawyers, and we were looking at ways to like embed guardianship into politics, essentially, so that nature has a right. And yeah, I think the guardianship thing, it comes from a environmental custodianship, like if you see litter, pick it up, but it also comes from an activist sense in the collective and how important that is with reconnection. And I think, yeah, there's such a power in the transdisciplinary. Like, we need to get the people that don't care, we need to get the water companies, on board, or at least in dialogue, in order to make genuine change. But these rituals and guardianships, if we can make them embedded within the system, then it's going to have so much more power.
And how are we getting on with that? Did they pay attention to the meeting that you all had?
They did. They did. It got tense, but then we used the concepts of water. So like whenever there was conflict, we like thought, well, let's think like a river and work around it, or like work fluidly. And I think that embodying the river in that way is quite a clever way to approach it in a, it's just hard to get out of these circles of silos. And I think this like interconnection, at least at the beginning, is just going to be the most important, but it's such a long way to go, isn't there?
What do you think is it? How do you think? I mean, I know what I think about this, but how does the relationship with water and kind of sustainability, I suppose, and considering nature as a holistic whole within this scenario change from the UK and Western Europe to the rest of the world? I mean, in your experience?
Yeah, I feel like I've gone full circle with this, because obviously in communities across the world, there is such a stronger emphasis on this interconnection, especially with water, and noticing, and like, especially of course with Indigenous communities, it's a lot stronger. But in the UK as well, when you look at, and there's a rise of it, stone circles and Morris dancing and these like very traditional ways of connecting with nature, I feel like we lost it through industrialization. And so with this green transition again, we're like relying more on hydrogen, relying on solar, all these elemental things. And it's like, can we not do it in a way that respects water and sees it as like a collaborator or something to worship? Because we did it before, like we can do it again. It's just anti-capitalism, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Problem.
and you're talking to the right person. Yeah, I'm definitely a full-blooded socialist. There's no doubt about that.
One of my dear friends, sound healer, sound artist, singer Nalini Blossom, wrote a beautiful song about this very thing. We pray for healings, blessings on the water. We pray for healings, blessings on the sea, that they may flow in perfect harmony. And if you imagine, she's leading that Icaro, that song, in singing circles all around the world, from Guatemala to Forest Park, England, everywhere, all over the place. And so you've got women singing tribal drumming. That's got to be doing something. I have to believe that element, that energetic element of trusting and praying and blessing the waters on more of a ritual side is having an impact, even if it's just filtering up into the collective and creating those small, subtle energetic shifts. So for those of us that are listening, the sound is amongst us. Sing to the waters, pray. I am myself going to now be a proud river guardian of the River Thames outside. I'll be singing to it and doing what I can.
Goddess.
River Goddess. That's me. We're seeing that next week with a nice blue flowing goddess river dress.
Yeah, exactly.
So what practically do you think people can do then, Kat? Because I know people are going to want to find out more about you, find ways to get involved. I've said this before on previous podcasts, funny enough, when we were speaking to Ruth, about we have got an army of foot soldier level sound healers that have got their tools. They're ready to walk into battle with a drum and a rattle, and they want to help. But we all feel a bit like, what are we supposed to be focusing on here? You know, there's so many different causes and social justice movements. So from your perspective, what can we be doing to make the change?
I think it's definitely looking at the collective and the individual together, because protecting your own eco-anxiety also is like really important, and your own mental health. But I really think that we just need to create more spaces for intersectional dialogue. Like, that's the biggest thing. And not being like, these people are our enemies, let's not engage with them. I think it has to be the polar opposite of that. But equally, that's creating spaces for deep listening in nature, or bringing that through immersive sounds to people that can't get out into nature, I think should be like a responsibility within the climate conversation.
I mean, we have, and people pay good money for spa experiences, you know, and sometimes sound is incorporated, obviously, into spa experience and stuff. But the idea, and I don't even like the word spa really. Maybe there's a way of having sound, you know, sound environments that you can visit that can de-stress you. I mean, it sounds very simple, and it, to the extent that I can't believe it's not ever being done. I mean, you've probably been in isolation tanks, and I've done all that stuff, and it's great, but that's just about getting the base level of decibels down to so low that you can actually hear the processes of your own body. You know, you get blood flowing through your various vessels, and the creaking of your joints and everything. But the idea of kind of replacing reality for people in sound, albeit for a short period of time, without making it feel like you're going to have your nails done or something. But just making it like an everyday part of, you know, like I've started doing Tai Chi recently, and I find that something like 10, 15 minutes a day, but it really helps me just refocus again and calm down a bit.
I started doing it too, funny enough. That's outside at the end of the day, because for me, there has to be a moment symbolically where the laptop shuts, electronics are going off, and I'm separating myself, because like you, like all of us, I love what I do. So I'm never off. I never want to switch off. When I'm watching a movie, I'm thinking about sound. Now when I'm cooking, I'm thinking about sound and how to progress and do more. So the Tai Chi for me at the end of the day is one of the best slow energy practices to just recalibrate, come back to the body.
Do you know who turned me onto that? Was Tony Visconti. Because he said to me he's been doing it since, well, for the last 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah. He was a heroin addict at 17. Right? He went through all that stuff, all the 12-step stuff, everything. And now he's been doing Tai Chi for 30 years, and he's like fit as a butcher's dog.
Good advert for it, Celts. Get on it.
You know. What do you think, Kat? Anyway, what's your regime for calming down the hyperactivity of your brain?
Definitely the flow state thing, and like just going to the piano, and it's like it really is the most amazing thing. And I think losing that sense of time and space in it is just like transformative. But equally, going raving, like I have to say, it's not just soundscapes, it's also like feeling drum and bass or feeling these things. And I think well, I was working with some people in Canada that have started doing eco grief raves, so it's where people it's amazing, yeah.
Ever next.
But like, you know, the fires are burning everywhere, and having these spaces to really like let go, let your body move in ways that you can't do with a laptop where you're hunched over, to collectively, I think it's just, yeah, so powerful.
And it's interesting, this idea of, because it can sound a bit dry, the whole kind of the idea of the collective and kind of worthy and all that stuff. But that's all that raving is. That's all it was when I was growing up. There's hardly any outlets for people apart from big festivals now. I mean, we used to micro rave, you know, on 2 or 3 times a week, as
Wow.
you'd say.
What classes as a microwave?
Yeah.
What is that? Well, how many people is that, and in what space?
Just like normal small nightclub environments.
Okay, then I've definitely been partial to a microwave myself.
Micro, I just made that.
I love that.
It's quite catchy, microwave. Yeah, I might use that. Make money out of that. So let's get back to Kat. So tell us about the Brunel residency, the hydrogen residency.
Yeah, I mean, so I think I said a little bit about it.
Yeah.
It was so like, it was amazing, first of all, to get that a position as an artist, but a bit of stability for a little bit of time, you know how hard it is.
Wow.
So to have that, but also to have it, this gift of being an outsider looking in on the incredible stuff they're doing with hydrogen in terms of like transforming diesel engines into hydrogen ones, but also looking at what are the wider implications of that. Like, we're going to be needing a lot of water. If it's green hydrogen, it requires a lot of water. So where's that water coming from? And like thinking about these things, which are for specialists like engineers, like it's very siloed knowledge. But through that, as I said before, some of the stuff went over my head. So I was looking at working with hydrogen on a deeper level. So I started using sound as that medium by looking at the sounds of the drones that were being created from the hydrogen combustion process.
Wow.
In diesel engines, and then composing with that as the kind of like thing that connected me with it, and then using that essentially as a drone to enter my own flow state. Because yeah, I think it got me to understand hydrogen in a way that's has maybe the same, like obviously it's not the same importance as an engineer, but I think it would enable the public to connect with it in a different way, because at the moment it's so expertise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like,
do you ever work with data sonification techniques?
yeah, I have done a bit of it, but not enough. I think a lot of this stuff I find quite technical. I'd love to know, have you done it?
Yeah, I've done quite a lot. The do you know what influenced me was well, it must be 30 years ago now, 25 years ago at least. That thing where they were doing the SETI thing, where they were doing distributed processing when laptops first became popular, basically. They had the thing of looking for signals from outer space, but it needed a huge amount of like processing, which they didn't have at the time. And so they asked average members of the public, if they would contribute some of their processing time on their laptops to use, to outsource kind of legwork, and so you get sent giant amounts of data, which would sonify and visualize,
Yeah.
and it's actually easier to hear patterns sonically than it is visually see differences. So and I got that inspired me, and I thought from that moment on I'm going to have a go at this. So we've done quite a lot of data sonification of scientific stuff, and it's just easy to discern patterns in it.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
What kind of sounds did it make?
Well, it's like a lot of it is kind of you can analyze a kind of repeating pattern, say for instance, with your ears without having any scientific knowledge. Or you can analyze a kind of staticky thing, and you can hear occasional little bits of musicality coming out of it. And at first you think, am I imagining that? And then you go back and you replay, you go, no, there's definitely something different there. And then you start asking the question, what does it signify? So you can also use it in a kind of reverse engineering way. You can actually, do that. I mean, it's all about it's all about rapid, not prototyping, rapid analysis of giant data sets, essentially. And sound is just a very effective tool for, but it needs intense listening. It needs focused listening. It's really interesting, I think. But also, you can take very dry stats on graphs and stuff like that, and if you sonify that data, especially live data, is particularly effective.
Did you improvise with it?
Yeah, we did an example piece to test all this with accelerometers attached to a garden swing. And we got it to, because the accelerometer and the orientation, whatever they call it, the device that determines what direction it's going in, can analyze, you can attach that stream of data coming through continuously to, and you can attach it to like a keyboard, so it's like running a finger up and down a keyboard.
Cool.
Swinging. So stuff like, I also did a piece of data analysis with University of Plymouth, and as part of the David Bowie exhibition that was on, it was a special evening event, and analyzed. I got this theory that as Bowie increased the amount, I created this imaginary coefficient of positive keys, the amount of major chords in a song, basically, and tempo times tempo, came up with this coefficient of, shall we say, positivity. And I had this theory that as does this correlate with sales over time or popularity? And so did this thing, and in the end, which is the beauty of this kind of analysis stuff, it came up with something was incredibly elegant and simple, belying all the effort that went into me analyzing every one of Bowie's songs. So up to his career, from the very start up to his work with Nile Rodgers in the early 80s, Let's Dance and all that stuff, it was a definite, almost one-to-one correlation. And then after that, as he got extremely popular, obviously his record label went, we've got to keep this up, or he thought that anyway. So it kept getting faster and more major chords over the next 20 years, but the sales started going down. It's almost like the analogy would be putting your foot to the floor in a car.
Yeah.
And the petrol running out. Isn't that fascinating? And we did it anyway, for the exhibition that we did at the V&A, we did it the other way around. I put it all in 3D sounds, so I attached sounds to the increase in sales. I just took all the musical intros for all his songs and mapped it to a giant keyboard, and moved it physically in space over time, and have a robot voice going 1984, 1985, and you could tell just by listening to it without knowing anything. It had all the data on the walls and graphs and everything, but just by listening to it, you could tell something wasn't right after this point, and the whole thing diverged both in tonality and in space.
Wow.
You've
I
done
know it's hard to describe, but it was an amazing piece of work, I have to say. Took my Steve Marston crazy, yeah. And it was only occupied one night.
really all that work for one night. My God, that should have been like a 3-month.
I know.
Get it back. I mean, one night. You should put it on again somewhere else.
Well, guys, like one of those people who just does things and moves on.
Fair enough. You've got
I
that.
think we're going to get like that, aren't we?
And that's actually leads me to my final question for you both, because admittedly, you completely lost me at data sonification, went over my head all that. My brain doesn't work that way, but you got me back and you said intense listening. And it really made me want to ask, because both of you actually have had such significant contributions into the world of both social change and sound and music for art and for the evolution of humanity. So it's like tick, tick, tick on the whole SoundPower front here. My question to you both, as we bring this to a close, is if more people listened to the way you do, what do you think might shift in society?
I would definitely say by listening deeper, you notice more. And I think that with all the distractions that's happening, like on your phone and whatever, I just think if you take that time out to listen, what change could we do? Is like literally by noticing, you're seeing all of the injustices that's happening to nature, to the way that we are as a society, this polarization. I just think it would just be so powerful. Yeah.
And what is it going to work? I mean, is what we are attempting to do, is there enough momentum to make it happen?
Yeah.
That's the big question, isn't it, really? Because we could be shouting into the void, if you forgive the kind of sonic origin.
But I think even if you can impact, I work with a lot of young people, and I think that anxiety is so high at the moment. Like people that can't put this, like their phones down, even for a second in a workshop and stuff. And I think that if you can impact even one person about really connecting, then that's like the most important thing you can do.
I think so.
It's never without hope.
No.
It's never without hope.
Okay, I've got a few questions that I ask everybody who comes on the podcast. So here we go. What's your favorite nature sound?
Oh, that's good. I love cicadas. Hang on, let me just change that. So I love cicadas, but I love I'm obsessed with pigeons. I think that they're such a undervalued animal, and the rhythms that they have, they're very funky.
Yeah.
And actually, it's such a joy waking up to them, even though they're a bit annoying. It's lovely.
Can I just add to that? I know we don't have much time, but on pigeons, I feel like they get a really hard deal because they were trained, weren't they, to be the messengers during the war. And then when we didn't need them anymore, we just discarded them. And they still trust humans. That's why they come to us for food, because there's this inherent belief and knowing in them from previous pigeon ancestry that they can trust us, and we just shoo them away and nobody wants to feed them. But actually, I think we should be honouring the pigeons.
Yeah.
So glad that it's your favourite sound.
Yeah. Going back to cicadas, I had an amazing experience, 3D sound experience recently. I was going out to this beach in Sardinia, which is have you been there?
It's on my list.
I've been, yeah, beautiful.
It is beautiful. And anyway, this kind of remote beach that you're going to get to, you have to walk like half a mile and stuff through kind of scrubby trees and stuff. And it was just that point, there's a certain temperature where they're most active. I think it's like 28 or 29 or something like that degrees centigrade. It was deafening. I've never heard anything like it. If I'd only had my binaural microphone headpiece in, or my 3D microphone, it would have been the greatest recording of all time. It was deafening. Brilliant. Yeah. Who's your favorite composer?
Ooh. God, that's so hard. Actually, sorry.
One of them.
I love Samuel Coleridge Taylor, only because I did a big project with I got we did him in drag as a heritage trail in Croydon, but is an underrated composer because he's like yeah, he's amazing. He's worth checking out. Yeah, but he's never played, and well, maybe he started. Yeah.
Have you done stuff with sound and movement, like dance, ballet, anything like that?
Well, at the moment, I guess with the element, I've done it myself. I do a lot of like in the water with Bulgaria, in the Danube. I feel really connected to moving with that, especially as someone with chronic. I've got endometriosis, and I feel like that pain is like.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
No, but and one of my backing singers has got it as well. Whenever she runs, she ran a marathon with it. Why? Can you imagine? Yeah.
So inspiring. But I feel with water as well, like it's such a powerful way of getting me to be able to move properly when it's come on really strong. So I have done that, but I've also with the elements tried to experiment bringing them to life. So I work a lot with this software called PhotoMosh, which is amazing, very cheap. I think it's like 30 quid, yeah. But basically you can take an image or a video, and then as you play it responds to the sound.
Oh,
so I've been working with that with the elements. So like with the hydrogen combustion, I've been using the videos of that so that when I play it kind of dances. So I guess that's a movement thing.
That sounds good.
Definitely a movement, see.
I'm gonna nick that idea.
Me too, or even down.
Okay. Not that literal idea, I know.
No, honestly, the software's great.
Which piece of music? Do you have a particular piece of music that has a kind of transcendental effect on you and just puts you into a complete spin? Like something, or a moment in a composition, either yours or someone else's, that just transports you completely into it.
I think as a pianist that's done it by ear, something that's always, only because we're on the concept of Bowie as well,
Right.
that Lady Grinning Soul, that piano and that,
Oh, it's beautiful.
it just sends me. It's that flow of it, and like obviously Bowie's been interconnected with the world like in such a higher way than so many other musicians, and you can hear it.
Yeah. Well, Glenn from Hem17, he tours with Tony Visconti and Woody Woodmansey in their band called Holy Holy. And he's also friends with Mike Garson, who played that piano.
Wow.
Maybe you go like him. I'll see if I can make it happen.
God, that'd be amazing.
I'm sure he'd be very impressed as well. What's the favorite of your own work?
I think when I'm purely I've suffered with anxiety like my entire life, especially when playing on stage and stuff. Like it's been awful, and I think tapping into the flow state when I perform is like the best way to overcome that. So this collaborative project I've been doing with different musicians, where you're in it together, in this different sense of time and space, like really just pure improvisation. That's been like the thing that's made me really excited recently.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. And what gives you most hope for the future?
Stuff like this, obviously. I think this is great. And I think also this beautiful echo chamber that is forming of people across different sectors that are feeling this urge to change stuff and listen a bit more. Yeah.
Well, that's it. We did it.
Amazing.
What a great... that just flew by, didn't it?
Yeah, thank you so much.
True sonic storyteller. We really cannot wait to introduce you to our networks and share and let's see how we can help to contribute to your projects as well, so that we can all feel like we're focusing on.
Oh yeah, do you want to come to my studio and hear the 3D sound system?
God, hell yeah, be amazing.
Okay, we'll do. I'll email you offline and we'll arrange it.
That'd be
Yeah, I want
lovely.
to come too.
Oh, well, you can come. You've been, haven't you?
Good. We've
How
performed.
did you two meet, by the way?
Sorry?
How did you two meet?
That's a good question. How did we meet?
We were introduced via a mutual friend, and then I can't remember who he was actually, but it was around 2013, I think, long time ago, 13, 14 maybe. So yeah, this has got to be a decade-strong friendship, hasn't it?
Easily.
Well, yeah, and we bonded straight away over our northern connection and our complete disregard for mainstream rules, and we've collaborated on some really epic soundscapes as well.
Yeah.
You've got another one in the making, surely, Martin. It's time, 10 years on.
Yeah, we should do something.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick. And Cherub, I'd love to hear your stuff as well. If you've got anything coming up, that'd be
Let's
amazing.
be friends. Let's stay in touch and we'll introduce you.
Friends. Form a collective. Go on, you've already got two.
SoundPower forever.
All right, I'll email you, Kat, and we'll sort it out.
Lovely. Thanks so much.
All right, darling. Thank you.
See ya. Oh, how do I actually leave? Oh, there. All right. Bye.
You can never leave.